Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you so much for watching today and welcome back to another video, or welcome if you are new to the channel. Today I am going to be using a mix of different mediums and I'm going to be creating in this Strathmore, no it's not a Strathmore at all. It's Saunders Waterford paper, but it's within a Canson journal, art journal. It's a landscape version, but I like to use it in this portrait sort of orientation. And I wanted to create a background just using one colour family. So not just one colour, because I'm going to have lots of different shades and tones within that colour, but one colour family. And the colour I decided to go with was blue. Now, I do love blue, I have to admit. I am a green and blue fan, and I had already prepared the main focal point that was going to go on this page, which guided me a bit towards the colour that I decided to use. And I wanted to do this sort of abstracty background using some of my favourite and some new mediums just to have a little bit of fun, because it's been a while since I've done one of these grid journal backgrounds. So I'm starting off, I used my blue painter's tape, and they're just cheap ones that I get off of Amazon, I think it was. I sometimes use the thicker one, which is the Scotch one, which I actually just buy in the DIY store. I know there are other ones that some people use. I find on this particular paper, which is 100% cotton and is quite a thick paper, can't remember if it's 250 or 300 GSM, the Saunders Waterford in this book, but it doesn't tend to tear this paper. I have found on some other papers, like some mixed media papers, it can tear a little bit when I peel it off. There are ways around that with heating and things like that, but it's just something to be aware of. So I'm just going in with some watercolour to start with. I often start with watercolour. It's my favourite way to just get a bit of flow going in the background, and you get some sort of nice effects, and it's a really gentle way, I find, of starting off an abstract. And the colours in this, the paints I should say, in this little ceramic palette are the Qor Watercolours from Golden. I can't remember exactly what the colours are. I think one's probably cobalt teal I've used. I think I've used indigo here. And the other one will either be something like phthalo blue or ultramarine. I'm not sure which one it is. But I'm just adding some different sort of shades of blue. So a light, a medium and a dark to get that contrast, because that's something that you're looking for within your backgrounds and foregrounds quite often, is just getting that variation of contrast. And I decided to just pop some water on because the Qor are very flowy. Now I did leave that to dry totally overnight, and when I came back I decided I wanted to add a little bit of acrylic paint with some stenciling. Now this stencil is one from Tando here in the UK, but it is quite old. I should say that a lot of the products I use in my videos aren't necessarily the latest in terms of stencils, stamps, things like that. I might, things that the mediums are usually a bit more up to date, because I do love trying out whatever's new around. But my stamps and stencils are tools, and they are, tried and tested. I have certain ones that are my favourites, and they are for being used. So quite often they might not be available, but I'm sure that quite often you have in your stash, or you are able to get things that are very similar. So I don't put any links to products in my description box anymore. I used to, but because of the way the art and craft industry is these days, things change quite rapidly. Products come in, products go out, companies come in, companies go out. And if you put links in your video descriptions and then that link expires or is no longer attached to a product, YouTube can put like a strike against you for that. And after so many strikes, they'll take your channel away. So I'd rather leave it to you to just pop in a Google search or whatever search engine you like to use and just find the product or find similar. Also, YouTube is global, so I am very aware. I am in the UK, however, there are lots of people all around the world watching, and it's easier for you to search what is local for you rather than me saying, well, I can get this in my local store. But the way that tariffs and different sorts of rules and regulations are with regard to sending to all sorts of different countries these days, it's not always that simple to just order from different parts of the world. So after I had allowed my acrylic paint to dry, and it was the sky blue. I will list everything that I have used in the description box as much as possible, so that you can see exactly what it is I've used. Allowed that to dry. It didn't take very long. Acrylic paint is very, very quick drying, and I do put only a very, very thin layer of acrylic paint through my stencils. I'm going in with this stamp. Now this stamp is from a UK company, Pretty Gets Gritty. I used to be on the design team for quite a few years, and so I have a lot of products that I really love of theirs, and I do keep using them. However, I do think that this is one of the stamp sets that is no longer available. I think they retired this one. It's called Hashed Up, and I liked it because it had these sort of all these lines that were quite subtle to put into the background. So I'm going in with two different archival inks. I went in with Faded Jeans, and I do believe the other one is probably Mermaid Lagoon. There, I don't have a massive variety of my mini archivals, so you will see the same colours being used again and again, but that's because that's, you know, that's all I need. If you've got other colours that speak to you, then of course, you know, they're there to be used. Now, at this point, I decided to add a little bit of brush marker pen, watercolour marker into areas. I don't know why, I just felt the need. And as soon as I did it, I wasn't overly keen. So I got a paintbrush with some water. Good thing about watercolour markers is you can do this, you can wash out the colour. Now, watercolour markers, I find when you put them direct to your paper, they do sort of grab in quite quickly, so they stain the paper fairly quickly. But I didn't mind that, but as long as a little bit of the colour was being washed out and making it a little bit more subtle. And I realised I'd missed the top one. And sometimes, you know, I might go totally abstract with my grid art journaling, but quite often I do like to make sure there's similar elements in each box or you know, in each grid section. But that's just how I like to work. I mean, you don't at all have to do that. You can have it totally random. And then of course I had to add in some of the KingArt gel sticks. I really am still struggling a little bit getting these cases open, but I'm figuring that over time they will become easier. So I first of all grabbed, I think it was the pale blue gel stick, and I just did some lines. I put them down first, and then I think I blended them in with my finger. Now you can use water with them, but I wanted to use them in a more of a like an oil pastel kind of way, so just adding finishing touches to the background. So I'm just going in just a few lines on each square. Again, I do like that repetition. And then I decided that that really wasn't enough, so I went for a darker colour. So I went for deep navy. And as soon as I put it down this time, I decided to blend it out, and I got a nice little bit of smudging going on. You do get enough time to do that. You still keep that deeper colour, sort of like in the where you initially put it down, and then it gives that nice sort of halo effect. And I really liked that. And so I went in each one doing three circles in each. Oh, there's a theme going on here, isn't there, with my repetition? And I was happier then that I had, again, that contrast between having the paler gel stick and the really dark gel stick. So I'm just looking for that contrast all the time. So I've got the mid colours, I've got the light colours, I've got the dark colours. Now, once I've done that, I decided to remove my tape. And this is a bit that's always a little bit, ooh, so having to be a little bit careful. But like I say, with this paper, it does seem to be fine. It's more the mixed media that it seems to struggle with. And this is the focal point that I had previously created. Now this and the sentiment are from stamp sets that I designed for Cleverprints, which is no longer trading. So you unfortunately can't get hold of these stamps. In fact, I do believe the sentiments I don't think ever even got released. So I think I've got the only ones that are being used in the world. So, but I like to use the things I have. So like I say, you could just find any flower stamp if you wanted to recreate this, or any focal point. It doesn't even have to be a flower. I do like a flower. They're very bold. You can get a nice, you know, really contrasting colours. So because I'd done the really warm tones in the flower, that's why I went with the blue background. But you know, a bird, a person, a house, anything would work on these backgrounds. That's the lovely thing about doing these grid sort of backgrounds, is that you don't have to even have an idea. Now, I did it, you know, the other way around. I did my focal point, then I created the background. But you could just do any background and then choose what you want to put on the top. Now, I have coloured this image with alcohol markers. That's why it's quite, I would say, quite vivid and bright. And I added a little bit of white gel pen. And so I've just got the flower there, and then Do Small Things with Great Love, because I do like that saying. I think it's really nice. And just stuck that one on as well. So that is my finished journal page. A fairly quick and simple one, I would hope to say. And if you have enjoyed this video, do please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love it if you could do that as well. And there is now that hype button, so you can hype the video, let YouTube know that this is one that they should be sending out into the algorithm. At the end of the video, you'll also see a list of my lovely super supporters. These are my YouTube members, and there is a link to more information about that in the description box. But apart from that, thank you ever so much, everybody, for watching. And until the next time, bye-bye.